to the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood. Welcome to the Bodacity Show. And welcome to Lorraine Lane, our guest today, who is going to talk to us all about the do's and don'ts of networking. I am Aura McKay, and I am your host today. I know you normally see Jeanette Anderson here, but I am standing in to support her today. And I'm just going to tell you a brief moment about who I am. I am also a business coach. I offer training, coaching, and masterminds for freelance creatives to truly support them to do more, earn more, do less, and feel more confident. And I wanted to introduce you to Lorraine. Thanks for joining us today, and thank you so much for your patience. Hello, Lorraine.
Hi, glad to be here, and thank you.
Wonderful. I'm going to tell people just a little bit about you by reading a snippet of your bio. Apparently, Lorraine is known as the results coach. Her clients include business owners and executives across all different kinds of industries. And as a human resources and training manager in high tech, she helped develop managers and staff into strong, results-driven teams, conscious of their roles, and helping managers to step up into mentoring, to making sure that they were able to retain the right employees and take responsibility for doing the right thing. Lorraine has an amazing entrepreneurial spirit, and she started early on. Before we started going live here, we were talking about her pot holder business at age of 10 and doing door-to-door sales. So a lot of us who are listening today might not have that kind of intrinsic kind of, willingness to put ourselves out there and to do those kind of cold calling, door-to-door sales and things like that. So you started as a 10-year-old, which is extraordinary. Tell us a little bit about that journey, or maybe something else that we wouldn't maybe guess about you.
Well, when I did this pot holder business because I loved making these pot holders on a loom, and I even had special orders. And my grandmother showed me how to attach a round bone hook so that people could hang them up. And she showed me how to do the stitches very carefully and neatly. And so I really enjoyed this
Well,
little business.
what I'm hearing, Lorraine, is that you set yourself up for success. You found something you were passionate about. You found a wonderful mentor in your grandmother, and you found some unique way to go above and beyond in terms of the level of service that you were providing by adding in a hook to make it easier for people to hold their pot holders.
Yes.
So I'm curious, does that influence why you do what you do today?
Um, I hadn't thought about that story until just recently. I was sharing, when did I start doing something? And then I remembered doing this. And the thing I loved the most was counting my money.
I love it.
And but my business came to a screeching halt when a neighbor told my dad what I was doing. And she said, "Oh, she's so cute going door to door." And my father said, "You don't have to do that." 'Cause I wanted to make money. So he kind of shut me down, but it was a good learning experience. So yeah, the entrepreneurial spirit was kind of dormant for a very long time. And when I got laid off from my corporate job, starting my own business was not in the plan. It was not something I wanted to do. And I resisted it for a long time. So I say that I started my business kicking and screaming. But,
I often say that I've started my business as a reluctant entrepreneur. And I know that many of the people that are listening today are in that same boat of, they have a passion, they're heart led, they want to make a difference. But the idea of running their business and doing the work to find clients and make
right,
those connections just feels like way overwhelming.
exactly. And, you know, in the corporate world, you don't have to go out and network and build. The work is there, right?
Mhm.
So that did not appeal to me at all.
So what did you do to make the leap?
Um, I asked other people what they did, and so I mimicked what they told me, which was to network. And I wrote my book on business building referrals on the many notebooks that I studied networking for about 10 years and then wrote my book. But networking was hugely painful for me, and it was not something that I wanted to do. So
So
it
how did you get past that?
I had to I realized that the phone wasn't going to ring unless I did something.
What? It doesn't
Yeah,
just ring all by itself?
no.
Oh my
You
goodness.
know, I had the business cards, I had the, but I sat in my office with like I had to do something. And so I have forced myself to go and network, and it was not easy. It was not an easy thing. And you know, um, I read all the books. And I thought if there was another way that I could build my business, I would do it. And so, yeah, it was. So I studied this phenomenon of networking and how to use it because it has such power. It's
Mm.
a very powerful marketing technique, and unless you use it really well, it becomes a habit, and the juice doesn't get squeezed out of it, right?
Okay.
So what
Okay.
what I want to do with my clients is help them recognize the powerful marketing technique that they have if they use it well.
And
So
it's
that's became a passion of mine because I began to study it, and I realized that I was just doing the kind of robot things that I see other people do.
sort of
And
standard protocol, like everybody does the same thing, shake
you
hands with
go to weekly
people.
meetings, you stand up, you do your 30-second, and I ask my clients, how much business are you getting out of this? Not much,
Not much.
not much.
So, Lorraine, I'm just going to pause you there right now because one of the things that Jeanette really likes to make sure that all of her guests and her listeners really connect to is connect to that why. And in my listening here today, I'm really clear that one of the reasons why you are so passionate about sharing this message about the power of networking done well is that
Mhm,
you struggled and resisted it, and that it was really hard for you, and it sounds like you don't want other people to suffer that same way. And you've done the work, you've done the research, you've read all the books, you even wrote a book on it, you've gone
mhm.
out there in the trenches, you've experimented, you've done the typical, whatever everybody has said to do, the robot way of networking, and you've
Right.
discovered or created a different way of networking. So before we
Yes.
find out what that is, who is this for? Who are the kinds of people that this information is specifically for?
So it's for business owners. It could be, an entrepreneur, a solo, I call, a solo business owner who's trying to build their business. Could be a business owner who's got a lot of employees and so on, and is trying to build their business. So it's for people who don't have a large marketing budget, you know.
Ah,
So if you
so
have a big
people who are
marketing
trying to
budget,
do more like organic social media, and now they want to be doing more kind of, how can I have a low financial cost and a really powerful return on my investment? And
right,
you're suggesting those people learn how to network powerfully, learn how to
yes.
network the right way. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So solopreneurs, small business owners, big business owners, but people who predominantly don't have a huge marketing budget and who still want to make powerful relationships and connections.
And what I realized is that corporate people, because I didn't have a network I only had the internal network. And so when I got laid off, I did not have an external network. And so I was totally lost.
Yeah.
And I realized when I'm working with corporate people, I really encourage them to have a network, not just internal, but external. And a
Very
lot
interesting.
of corporate people don't think about that.
Okay. So it sounds like you also do some work for corporate people as well.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So now that we know a little bit more about who you serve, how is it that you help people learn this new way of networking? What kinds of services do you provide?
Okay. So what I tell my clients is that you're not a cookie cutter kind of a client for me. So I don't say, here's the 3-ring binder and we're going to do this and this and this. So each client is individual. They have their own uniqueness in the marketplace. So if they're already networking, we take a look at that, and is it really working? Is what you're doing really working for your business? How much business are you generating from your effort? Okay. And I'll sideline. I had this client who had a business that could have generated lots of money for her. She was going to 10 networking meetings a week, a week. And so I said, okay, well, okay. So how much business is this one? So for every one, there was no generation of business. These were friends. These are my friends. And I said, okay, Lisa, we need to pare it down to 2 a week. Oh, no, couldn't do that. So I said, when are you going to start generating revenue and making money, which is the goal of being in business, right?
Right? It's our favorite part, right? Counting the money, Lorraine.
And she had, yes, yes. And so she had many people who were wanting her to come and do the work with them. And she never would get out there and meet with them. She was networking all the time. So basically, I told Lisa she wasn't ready to work with a coach. And sadly, 3 months later, she closed the doors to her business. So you can network the wrong way because it isn't serving your business. It isn't generating the kind of referrals and business that you need. So I am not saying do not go to weekly meetings, but I am saying take a look at whether these weekly meetings are building your business.
Okay. Okay, that makes a ton of sense because if you're just going and doing the activity and you're not getting results, it doesn't make sense to keep doing that same activity. You need to change something about it. I'm curious
Yes.
though, Lorraine, you mentioned sadly she wasn't the right fit for being a client for you and getting some coaching on her networking. What does the best fit coaching client look like for you? How would I know that, okay, I'm ready for Lorraine?
Well, we have a talk about that to see,
Okay.
are you ready? Are you ready to expand and take a look at, like, she was not ready to take a look at her method of networking and pare it down so that then she could serve her clients or get some clients. So
I think you make a really
in
great
in that
point there
initial, yeah.
because
So in our initial conversations, I could see that we weren't a fit because I was going to be pushing her to go out and make money,
awesome.
and the resistance there. So
So to be a great client for Lorraine, I need to be ready and willing to make money and ready and willing
yes,
to be coachable in changing how I network, not just where I network or who I network with. Okay, great. So, what are your tips? Like, is there anything that you can offer us today for those of us that are ready, they're ready to make the money, that we're ready to go and
yeah,
look at how we're networking? What are some tips that you could provide us to be able to be more successful and to actually get results that matter in our business?
right. So one of the things that we start off with is, who's your target market? Because if your target market is, let's just say your target market is people who need printing for their business or marketing for their business. And you're networking in places where those people don't show up, they're not part of the group, then you're not going to reach your target markets. So we have to know who your target market is. And, you know, when people say anybody's my target market, no, that doesn't work. So and people think that we're going to shrink your target, right? And I recently worked with someone and he was so reluctant to target his market. But what happened was we realized, oh my God, now that you've identified, we expanded his reach, and that business is just booming over the last couple of months because now he's focused on his market.
I love this. This makes so much sense in terms of how to run a successful business in general. That fear that we have that if we focus on a particular kind of ideal client, that we're going to limit us. But I love what you said is that once you have that focus, now the possibilities and opportunities for where to find them become more clear. That's where you create the expansion of possibility. Is instead of wasting all our time and energy going to places where our clients might not even be, now that we're focused, we can be very selective and increase the opportunities that we have to connect with them. That's so knowing our target market. What would be another tip for us, Lorraine?
So what I tell people is when they go networking, don't sit.
Oh,
so you'll notice. You notice if you go to networking events, people go in, they get food, they sit down, or they find their friends and they sit with their friends. Okay, so
what I'm hearing is sit with strangers or don't sit at all.
If you're going to sit, go meet somebody new, right? Or wait to get your drink or your food and meet 10 people before you sit down.
So I think you make a really great point because I've been to a lot of networking events that call themselves networking events. And often there really isn't time for conversation. So what you're saying is leverage whatever time is there. Leverage the time in the lineup. Don't just stand there with your plate waiting for whatever. Have conversations, talk to people while you're there. So my question would be, if I'm at the networking event and I know who my target market is and I'm at the right networking event to find them, and I'm leveraging my time by meeting strangers and talking to people in the food lineup, what do I say?
Small talk.
Small talk? Are you serious?
Yeah. So when people say to me, and this was one of the big things, this for me, small talk was like, oh my God, what do I say to people, right? And that was one of the things that was so hard for me when I went networking. But I taught myself questions to ask. Have questions. I have a file full of questions that I help my clients with. So they go armed with some questions so that they don't feel left out.
And wow. So pre-selecting what you're going to say, even in your small talk.
Right. Wow. So being able to engage people in small talk, because what happens is people say things like, oh, great weather we're having, huh? Or is this your first time here? Or what do you do? You know,
that sounds like that robot list you were talking about.
Exactly. So if you can engage people with some different kinds of questions and really listen to what they're saying, you will really come out with some great information, because people will tell you things that are so wonderful. Like one of my past clients in the conversation told me that he was, his anniversary was the next day, his wedding anniversary, and which one. And so I wrote that down, and every year I send him an anniversary card. And he keeps saying, how do you know it's my anniversary? Well, you told me the first conversation we had. Or
Ah,
people will tell you when their birthday is, or some nugget of information that then I use in my follow-up with them. But you have to listen. You have to be very aware of those things that people drop like gems in a conversation. And when I learned that, it's a long story, so I won't go into it. But anyway, I learned that people don't listen to other people at networking events.
I just wrote that down. I just wrote that down as your fourth little gold nugget. There is really listen. And I think that is one of the most challenging skills. Most of the people that I know, when we go to a networking event, we think, okay, I gotta like talk about myself, and I gotta have my pitch and my 30-second elevator pitch and all of that kind of stuff. And what you're suggesting is that instead we have real, authentic, everyday conversations with people, and
Mhm.
that we listen, actively listen, and pay attention to what it is that they're sharing, and that is the key to effective networking. So, really quickly, can you draw a line for me? How does that get me money I can count?
See, networking is the building of relationships. So you don't get married on your first date. Well, usually you don't get married on your first date. Usually. So you build the relationship over time, right? And so when people start pushing, like, I have something I want to sell you in that first encounter, you walk away. You have to create curiosity, and you build relationship over time. And so if there's someone that I really want to know more about them, not because I want to sell them something, but because I want to know more about them. And if I say, could we meet next week for coffee, and get out my calendar? I learned that too. Get out your calendar right away, because it'll never happen unless you get your calendar out and make it happen. And how to do those meetings in a way that continuously builds the relationship.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things I learned, was that those one-on-ones were often the other person trying to sell me their stuff. And so it was just, I bought you coffee for you to try and sell me your stuff, when I really,
I,
yeah. So learning all those things
so
but I learned them in a way that I can then help other people to
and
not do that.
And this brings me exactly, you're so great. Thank you, Lorraine. You're giving us so many gold nuggets in terms of what to do in a networking event. And so what I've heard so far is be really clear about your target market. Either sit with strangers or don't sit at all. Leverage your time there and
Mhm.
engage in small talk. Have real, authentic, everyday conversations. And while you're doing that, listen actively, and if you can, make notes afterwards. Create curiosity so that you can be building a relationship over time, and make sure that if you want to create or connect with someone later on, that you get your calendar out right there in the moment and book that coffee meeting. And then
Mhm.
you're saying that to be really successful at networking, how we engage in that after conversation, that one-on-one conversation, is going to make a huge difference in building that relationship. I really wish we had more time on this show to be able to get into those details, but I understand that you have two gifts for us today
I
that
do.
would help us to understand how to continue to be successful. So one of them, I think you're going to invite us to a workshop, and then another one, you're going to be able to give us some additional tips. So why don't you go
Yes.
ahead and share what it is we could learn if we joined you at your workshop?
Yes. So it's a master class on October 12th at noon Eastern. And I will be sharing how to make your networking work for you. So we covered a little bit here now. And so we'll be doing a deep dive in how to do that. So I'm really passionate about entrepreneurs using networking in a way that really generates business for them. And
Mhm.
the other is it's 10 tips on how to make your networking an A game. Okay. And in there, I really go deep in some of these tips that I've shared today on how to really do this. So
Well, thank
those,
you so much for those. I was a little bit distracted while you were talking because I was trying to get them all into the chat box there so everybody has the links that they need. I
okay,
know that what I heard was this workshop coming up is going to go deeper in the how, and it's on October 12th. The link
yes,
will be put in the description for people. It's also in that chat if they want to go ahead. It's free to register, there's no cost at all.
no
And
cost.
then I understand that the link for the 10 tips is going to, you're just going to be uploading the latest and greatest updated version of that. So there might be
Yes,
a small delay before the 10 tips PDF is ready for everyone, but you're going to be able to provide that. However, there are some people that are listening today thinking, okay, I am exactly Lorraine's client. I am a solopreneur or a small business owner. I don't have a huge marketing budget. I want to make meaningful relationships. I believe in relationship marketing. I want to count my money. I'm ready. I'm coachable. Can I book a discovery call with you? Is there a way to be
yes.
able to stay connected and follow you? Is that something that you can put in the chat box for us soon?
Okay, so do you want me to put my contact information?
Go ahead and put your contact information there. I am going to just read out the URLs for both of those free
Okay,
gifts from Lorraine, just in case anyone is listening to the audio. So if you go to Lane BC, that's LANEBC.com/workshop, you can have the registration for her October 12th, how to rock your networking. Not sure if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it. And then if you go to lanebc.com/10, the number 10 dash tips, you will be able to download her PDF. So, Lane, as we just wrap this up right now, is there any final words that you would like to leave our audience with, or like a final memorable piece of advice that we can take away with us today?
yeah, I think as painful as it is, measuring your results, because I'm a
Oh,
big results person. And that was a huge lesson for me when I realized I was investing a lot of money, and your time is precious. And when you're spending time and not getting results for that,
mm.
I want to change that for you because you're putting a lot of money and energy into something that isn't giving you return. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
Exactly. So if you're not getting the kind of return that is benefiting you, we need to look at a different way.
Yeah.
Keep what's working, but change what isn't working.
I love that. Keep what's working and change what isn't. So the message is you may be in the right networking place to find the right target market, but there may be different ways of approaching your networking that can get you better results. So keep what's working and change what isn't. That is a
Yes.
wonderful note to leave us on. I so appreciate having you as our guest today on the Bodacity Show. Thank you so much, Lorraine Lane, and thank you for the
Thank you.
work you do supporting other people to take the pain out of networking and to bring back the results and the confidence. Thank you
Yes.
so much. And
Thank you.
for those of you that are listening, just a reminder that the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood event, the breakthrough event, is happening this week. The registration and information about this fabulous 3-day event being hosted by the one and only Jeanette Anderson will be also posted below for you. We'd love to see you there. Have a fantastic and bodacious week. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Great to meet you.
Thank you.